54 years ago. I'm very happy to be 54, by the way, ladies. I think we should embrace our age and enjoy being 54 because it's fantastic. I was born on Council Estate, and I was a latchdoor kid. My parents were alcoholics. My mum left me when I was 8 to run off with the milkman, of all people, and I was left to bring up my young sister. So faith, rules, boundaries, all the things that you have as a young girl, unfortunately, I didn't have. So I was left to my own devices and made my own decisions, which obviously at 12 is not a very good thing to do. I lost my virginity at 13. I was pregnant by the time I was 15. I had an abortion. I didn't have a mum or a dad. Lucky I had an older sister who was great. And then when I was about 17, I thought, this is not very good. Stuck on a council estate, doing drugs, drinking, copying my parents. What should I do? So I had this dream about being rich and successful and working in the city where all men in suits go. And I thought, I'll make loads of money, I'll find a really good one in a suit with a big car, who can get me a big house, and I'll live happily ever after, as they say in fairy tale. But we all know that the fairy tale always ends at the wedding. Not that I'm down on marriage. So I thought, how am I going to do this? I've got no money, I've got no O-levels, I know nothing about business. It's going to be a bit tricky. So, to be really honest, and I always am honest, and I always tell the truth, I came up with the idea of sleeping with somebody who had lots of money to get me from A to B. And I was quite lucky, I was quite attractive and had a good personality. So I found him. He was a banker in the city, and he was Egyptian, extremely religious. I had no concept of anything to do with religion, so it wasn't really a match made in heaven. And I went off to live with him in Park Lane, and he took me all over the world. We went to Paris, we went to New York, I shopped in Cartier, and I got quite a taste for the rich life, the best things in life. And after about 9 years with him, and seeing some quite difficult things in our relationship, he took me to Egypt a few times, and his grandmother offered me some rubies to produce a baby, which unfortunately, due to catching chlamydia when I was 15, I found out that I was infertile and couldn't give him the baby even for the rubies, which was also quite a bit of a blow. So that relationship ended, but by now I was living in Mayfair, and I'd met some great people, and I ended up working for a recruitment company for redeployment. And I worked, and I worked, and I worked, and I worked my way right to the top. I then thought, wow, this is fantastic. If I'm doing this for somebody else, why don't I do it for myself? So in the early 90s, I was celibate at the time. In the early 90s, I decided to start my own headhunting company with no O-levels, no experience of the city, and quite a wayward type person, but I thought I'll probably fit in quite well. So I started my own business with £5,000 loaned to me from a friend. And by around 1999, I was worth probably £6 million. I had a fantastic business. I had an amazing life, or so I thought at the time. I drove a Ferrari, always drunk, sadly. I was taking drugs again, doing coke, but this time not the way I did when I was a lot younger. This was the high life, this is what makes you happy. I was traveling the world. I had absolutely everything, every single thing that materialism can give you, I had. I bought handbags for 20,000, I bought shoes galore, I had everything that you would imagine would make you happy. But clearly I wasn't very happy because my best friend, who's filming me at the moment, had worked for me earlier. She ran off to LA to find the man of her dreams. She invited me to the wedding. I was maid of honor at the wedding. The man she was marrying had a brother who was best man. And after a lot of champagne, at 4 o'clock in the morning, he asked me if I wanted to go to Las Vegas on the back of his Harley Davidson to get married by Elvis And I said yes. Woke up the next day, oh dear. But anyway, he was quite good looking, didn't have any money, but was very attractive. And I thought, I'm really unhappy, I've got all this money, you know, I'm tired of the city, I achieved my goal from nothing, I became rich and successful. Maybe now I need to do something different. So I went back to London, I gave my business up to my business partner. I sold all my houses, I sold all my cars, I put all my money into the stock market in 2000, ADCT, Kingston Communications, all the stuff that I heard in the city, in bars, people telling me buy this, buy that. And basically went to live in LA to be happy ever after with my new husband and my new life. 3 months after I'd been there, everybody probably knows, in 2000 the stock market crashed. And my old secretary phoned me and said, your stock portfolio is worth, well, this is just before it crashed, she said your stock portfolio is worth about $7 million. And there's some talk in the markets that the whole thing's going to crash. So if I was you, I'd get out now. And I said, aha, but tomorrow there'll be double. I put the phone down, the following morning the whole thing blew up, and within 2 weeks I lost everything. As you can imagine, I was horrified, in complete shock. I had to sell my big house in Los Angeles. The husband, when the money ran out, obviously didn't turn out to be particularly good, so he left as well. So I was in Los Angeles in 2000, having arrived there, a multi-millionairess, pretty much penniless. And my best friend was married to the brother. So basically we both left these husbands, and we decided that it would be very difficult to start again in Los Angeles being old. As you know there, if you're over 20, you're a dinosaur. We weren't particularly thin either. But we decided we would try our hardest to start again as middle-aged women in Hollywood. And it turned out for a couple of years it was really successful. We wrote a book, we met loads of famous people, we did some celebrity styling, I was a talent agent. So we had a bit of a life, but what people don't recognise about Los Angeles and Hollywood is you don't get paid for anything. You do it all just for a favour. So we weren't actually making any money, but all the trinkets that I'd collected during this climb to success, I had to sell. Beware when you buy a Tiffany diamond ring for £10,000, when you go to sell it, you'll be offered $100. So the inequity in that situation was just horrific. My art went really cheaply. You know, there are a lot of people in Los Angeles who've got some fantastic things for very little money. And we kept going, and we kept going, and it was really, really, really hard. We had a very small apartment, and the money was running out, and the pressure was building, and it was all very, very difficult. And in about July 2004, I'd been bleeding for quite a long time. But I assumed it was because it was the menopause. So I didn't really do anything about it. We were starving, so I was really thin anyway. And I didn't kind of really think, oh, I need to go and sort this out. I didn't even have a doctor, because we don't have free medical care in America. You have to pay for everything. And one day I woke up and I collapsed and fell on the floor, and Holly called for an ambulance, and I was rushed into a hospital in Los Angeles, and I was told that my blood count was 3.7, so I was pretty much, I had bled to death, and that I was basically over. So for me, it was, you know, good night Sooty. And I remember thinking, oh God, what's happened? And that's the first time I probably did think about God. Oh God, what's happened? It was horrific. They then brought in a priest, and somebody, I've never ever been religious, I've never even thought about it. And the priest read the last rites to me. And as this was happening, basically my heart gave up, and I died for 15 seconds. It's so funny, just talking about it now makes me feel quite emotional, I don't know why. I died for 15 seconds. And in that 15 seconds, something quite amazing happened. I heard a voice, and the voice said, was Shirley Yanez, a drunk, a loser, and somebody who had all that money, was never happy, and did absolutely nothing, gave nothing back.